Hey everyone, welcome to class. I'll be doing video overviews of the class each week to highlight some of the important aspects of the class. It'll almost be as if we're in class together. So let's get started. Keep these as short as possible for you. So the first thing that I would suggest is that, like we do on the first day of any class, go through the expectations of the class. Take a minute and read the syllabus. Look at what the deliverables are, and the deliverables would be your weekly assignments, your final assignment, and then the expectations of the discussion forum. You've all had online classes before, but every instructor has different expectations for even the discussion forum. So I would take a minute and review the rubric so that you're getting the grade that you want to have. So that's all listed right underneath the announcement. Just like I've always done with classes, the announcement section will be updated every Monday, and it'll be sort of an overview of what we talked about the week before, plus what to expect going forward. Right underneath that, you'll find the expectations of the class, then you'll get into the weekly breakdown, week 1 through week 6. So the objectives of this class is for you to understand the process of how entrepreneurs look at things differently. Entrepreneurs are creative thinkers, they're innovative thinkers, they're valued by business. You don't have to be a business owner to demonstrate creative and innovative thinking. There's a term coined an intrapreneur, and an intrapreneur is someone who demonstrates that type of thinking but works for someone else. Our textbook is a very readable book. It's called the startup of the Brooklyn Brewery, and I think that you'll find it a great and fascinating read, and a lot of the key ideas can be applied to any business. You might find that you think about beer a little bit more when you're reading this book, but really that's never a bad thing. We're going to apply this content through the lens of the Outback Company, formerly known as OSI, and you'll see me refer to it as OSI sometimes in the throughout the course, and sometimes as BB, which stands for Blooming Brands. And I know that gets a little bit confusing because BB also stands for Brooklyn Brewery, but once used in the context of Outback, it's the Blooming Brands, or OSI, which is the Outback Steaks International name, which is the flagship company that owns the Outback, Fleming's, Carrabba's, and a few other concepts which you'll learn about. I'll talk a little bit more during the course of this class why I chose Outback. Don't get stuck on the fact that we're focusing on a chain restaurant. This is merely a forum to apply the class content. So what's the rationale behind this class? Real simple. Businesses need to adapt, they need to change, they need to reinvent themselves. There are very few businesses that can be exactly the same that they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And that change comes from creative and innovative thinking. Those creative and innovative thinkers that have the ability to see things differently are valued in an organization. So where are we starting? The first thing that you're going to do is each week there's quite a bit of reading. Weeks 3, 4, and 5 you're actually reading the Beer School book. Weeks 1 and 2 and 6 there's some other readings. As a side note, if you don't have the Beer School book now, I would get it. You will need it by week 3. If you're not a fast reader and can't read the whole book in 3 weeks, you should start reading that now as well. So you'll be reading an article called Thinking Outside the Cup. It's from Fast Company magazine, a magazine that I think does a great job of really focusing in on creative and innovative thinking in current businesses. It's a little bit of a dated article, but that's okay because I like the backward perspective that it gives us as how we look at, Starbucks comes up with these great ideas. Are they consistent with their brand? Do they drive the company forward? And what's interesting about this particular focus is it's on a their hear music concept, which you'll learn more about as you read the article. We can quickly see from our vantage point of looking back that it wasn't a great idea. It didn't help the brand, but it's nice to see that sort of perspective. There's also some additional readings, part 1 and part 2, Anatomy of an Entrepreneur, a little bit dry, but gives a great overview of what makes for an entrepreneur, which I think is a great piece of groundwork or a foundation for your assignment this week, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. Very short read on Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz is the CEO of Starbucks. It's done as part of a series by the New York Times called the Corner Office series. Again, I think it'll give you a great perspective by which to approach your assignment this week, as well as give a little bit more context to the Fast Company article that you read called Thinking Outside the Cup. And then lastly, there's a very short reading from Inc.com. So you have 5 different readings this week. So pace yourself and get yourself organized. Familiarize yourself with the assignment. It's going to require you to interview someone. As I had said before, it's entitled Interview with an Entrepreneur, and you will be interviewing an entrepreneur. So you might want to get that scheduled as soon as possible in the week, so you're not getting in touch with me on Sunday night and telling me you don't have anybody to interview. Your interviewee does not have to be a food service person. They don't have to be a business owner. They can be an entrepreneur. They have to be someone that demonstrates creative and innovative thinking that you can learn from and apply the course content from this week within the context of that conversation. So you should not have a difficult time finding someone. It may be someone you know, could be a family member, could be your parents, maybe somebody that you don't know. It may be the coffee shop owner down the street who you think does an absolutely fabulous job, and you wanna network with them. So if you have any questions or concerns about your interview, contact me early in the week. So let's talk about some of the readings. The Starbucks reading is interesting, and as I had referred to it earlier, it's a backward-looking view at a creative and innovative idea that actually didn't work for Starbucks, which is nice because not all ideas work. But within this failure, it still highlights 2 very important principles that I think we're going to see being played out again and again. The first one is that technology makes things a game changer. It changes the speed at which an idea can occur, and it just changes the magnitude of how an idea can be implemented. And we'll see that play out again. But I just want to plant that one seed. And then the second thing that I would say about the Starbucks article is that, creative and innovative ideas are great. It needs to further the brand. It needs to improve the business model and not detract from it. And I think you'll easily see from the vantage point of looking back at this whole at how things played out with the whole music situation at Starbucks, that this was an idea that did not support the business model. And that's one of the reasons it failed. The second reason that it failed is because technology moved too quickly. It moved quicker than the implementation of that idea. So let's keep those 2 points in mind. The other thing that I think you'll start to see as this class develops, hopefully starting in week 1, is that the ability to think in a creative and innovative way can be developed and nurtured. And that's the intent of the idea, is to begin to plant that seed. How do we get you to think outside the box, or as Starbucks would say, outside the cup? Okay, now what? So we want you to think like an entrepreneur. We want you to take those creative and innovative thinking skills to help support your success in the industry. That's what week 1 is about. It's about acquiring that overview. Your first assignment, as I suggested, is going to be the interview with an entrepreneur. Get it scheduled early, and make sure you've done all the reading before you talk to this person, so that you can talk to them within the context of this week's class content, which is a great segue into what am I looking for. There are grading rubrics with every assignment. Generally speaking, every assignment I want to see application of the readings. The readings are there for a reason. If you can't figure out a way to pull those readings into the assignment, you're either A, missing the point of the assignment, or B, you haven't read them. Either way, they will not support a good grade for you. I want to see evidence of critical thinking. What does that mean? Okay, you read about something, you pull it into a different context, and you apply it. I want to see good, clear writing style. I want to start with a good intro paragraph of what you're going to talk about. I want to see the following paragraphs be a substantiated argument with cited facts. I want to see a strong concluding paragraph. If you don't fully understand what I mean when I say those three things, I would strongly suggest, and I have links all over the platform, go to the Purdue OWL website and look at what makes for a good intro paragraph. How do you substantiate an argument? How do you use good in-text citations? How do you cite your sources in your cited sources section at the end of your paper? What makes for a good concluding paragraph? At the end of the day, creativity is the type of learning process where the teacher and pupil are the same individual. And that's what we want to do this week. That's what we want to do for the next 6 weeks. I want you to start to think differently so that you can add more value to any organization that you're a part of. So at the end of the week 1 video, questions, comments, or concerns, as usual, email me, call me, text me. Don't wait till Sunday night to do that. Have a good week.